Hi, it's me! Here to yap about my animated pilot of Double Doppelganger. I'm going to talk about a bunch of the behind-the-scenes stuff, and I'm also going to try to talk about my process in an easy-to-follow way. So if you were thinking about making a pilot, then this could be kinda a tutorial, I guess. So here's the story of how I made this pilot with $0. This isn't actually my first big project. Starting around 2018 to 2019, me and a friend wanted to write a book together, and the book we ended up trying to write was just a Wings of Fire knockoff. And thank God for that knockoff. It was so bad, and when I say bad, I mean bad. But honestly, I'm still so glad we wrote the book together, because it taught me so much about writing, and it got a lot of that weird, cringy teenager writing stuff out of my system. And since I was writing with a friend, I got to see even more, how to see things from a different perspective and different ways to write. These dragon characters were technically my first OCs, but I never got to attach to them, because they weren't very good. So they never really got promoted to OC status in my mind. Here's what they look like if you're wondering. I wrote the script for the pilot in late 2023, but guess what? I started the storyboard before I wrote the script! So let's just say the pilot was a pretty messy experience, especially in the beginning. And that was mostly because I wasn't sure if I was even gonna go through with this yet. I didn't really lock in until I finally got myself to put out a casting call. Because yes, I was working on the episode for like 8 months before actually getting any voices for it. You guys know the takeoff scene? The one that has a whole clip on my channel? I added that at the last minute. Originally, Sierra was just like, okay, let's go. And then Zell went, wait, I can't fly. And then Sierra went, okay, I guess we'll walk. And then they walked. My avian characters walked? Might as well have made them all chipmunks then, huh? The pilot's overarching plot has basically stayed the same since its first couple of drafts, but I made as many little improvements as I could. And it's not like it's bad or will be retconned in the future, I just feel overall another draft or so wouldn't have hurt. But don't worry, I'm not going to spend the next 8 years remaking the pilot over and over again until I'm completely satisfied. Because honestly, I don't think we'd get there. And no one wants to see the pilot again, but slightly to the left. They want to see what happens next. What sparked me wanting to make a pilot was of course partly because of all the other amazing indie projects I've seen. And I wanted to throw my hat in the ring. But honestly, that was probably one of the smallest factors. Before the DD gang, I had a really hard time making characters that I would actually get attached to. And I was lacking the want to get attached. I had my fandoms to interact with, I didn't need OCs. But after a while of just doing fandom stuff, I started to feel my creativity getting stifled. Yeah, I loved my fandom characters, but they had their preset stories, and I wanted new stories. So one day, we were sitting in the car. Who knows where we were going? I sure don't remember. And then I was like, you know what? I want to make my own story, but I never get attached to my OCs. I'll just make it the most self-indulgent story ever, and then I'll have to like it. So that's what I did. I made fun designs that I would like to draw over and over again, and I thought up my favorite tropes and types of stories, and I mushed them into this. And it worked! I made the pilot with them, they're alive! Now of course I pulled back quite a bit on the self-indulgence for the sake of a coherent and actually good story, but that hasn't made me less interested. None of the changes have ever felt like sacrifices, because it's always been to the story's benefit. And if there's a scene or a trope that I really like but I can't fit in DD, then there's always the opportunity to put it in a later project. If you want any more information on one character's development process, then I go over a lot of that in their respective design talk shorts. Again, I love this story I've made. I have most of the episodes already on their first draft, because now I can cross-reference things and hint at future things easier. And I have more time to put them all through future drafts, only making the episode stronger. This method isn't for everyone, it can be a lot to keep track of and think about, but it's what works best for me. Since I have all the first drafts finished, I can semi-confidently tell you that season 1 will be 12 or 13 episodes long. There's one episode I might split in 2. Now before I talk about some more of the technical stuff, I just want to say that if you are even thinking about making a story with your characters, be it an animated series, or a comic, or even a book, then please, start small! Do not give yourself a main cast of 4, kind of 5 to work with. Start with like 2. Please, I promise you will thank yourself later. Anyways, I was able to make this pilot with $0. And I can hear you wondering how that is when most people say indie's pretty expensive. There's a reason most people will put up a Kickstarter. 1, my voice actors are amazing and they're letting me use their voices for free. So you should like and subscribe and all that stuff so that I can pay them someday. 2, all the music is from copyright-free libraries, besides one track that someone in my server kindly made and let me use for free. Related note, but for episode 2, I have been trying to make more original tracks. I am not that good at it, but anyone can open GarageBand and slam instruments together until it sounds decent. 3, I was the only one animating. Since I was the only one working on it, I didn't feel the need to pay myself, so I kinda just threw myself into the thick of it and clawed my way through. Fun fact, I thought episode 1 was gonna be 12 minutes, max. I was wrong! A couple people are actually helping me with episode 2, and I am so thankful. Even if I'm still doing most of it, any of their work helps. So again, subscribe so I can pay them. To save myself from curling up and dying, most shots aren't really shaded, besides maybe like a fade shadow or an overlay I throw on top at the end. Also, there's no lip sync because I suck and there's no way to import audio to Procreate for easy practice. However, I have been practicing a bit. Anyone who watches my shorts might have noticed. Anyways, now I'm going to talk about the process a bit. My storyboard ranged in its quality depending on the shot. After the storyboard, I go in, I sketch the movement, still keeping lines fairly loose because it doesn't need to look tidy yet. Mixed in with the movement, I make the background. Sometimes I make it before the sketching, other times it's after. I should probably stick to doing it first, but After that, I ink a shot and color it. Inking is where I make sure everything is clean, and coloring is just that. My favorite part is probably sketching the movement, and then my least favorite is probably the backgrounds. Once I have finished a shot, the backgrounds, lines, color, all of that, I'll export it, throw it into my editing app, and put it all together. This is when I add the voices, the sound effects, and the music. As I think I mentioned, I use Procreate to animate. I bought it back when it costed around $10. If you think that invalidates my $0 claim, then just know I got Procreate way before I even had thoughts of making a pilot. I use it for so many other art pieces, not just this series. My OC folder, which again, I've only had OCs for a few years, is at 700 drawings, and that's just my OC folder. My non-episode related animation folder has 200 files. But if you still think it's unfair of me to say this costs $0, then here, take this asterisk, put it next to the title. But anyways, I think that's all I have to say for now. I'll probably think of more to say later, but if so, I'll just put those into shorts most likely. Anyways, if you stuck around this long, then I have a little something as a thank you. Here's a short clip of episode 2. Thanks and enjoy.